Can you build your entire new course using AI? We're going to find out today with our special guest, Alessio Pieroni, and I'm so excited to have him here on today's episode of the Artificial Intelligence Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Namecheap. There is no better option when it comes to buying your domain names. I've been a customer for more than a decade, and it's been a dream experience. Secure your new business name today at servenomaster.com, Namecheap. Are you tired of dealing with your boss? Do you feel underpaid and underappreciated? If you want to make it online, fire your boss, and start living your retirement dreams now, then you come to the right place. Welcome to the Artificial Intelligence Podcast Show, where you will learn how to use artificial intelligence to open new revenue streams and make money while you sleep. Presented live from a tropical island in the South Pacific by best-selling author Jonathan Green. Now, here's your host. Now, I'm really excited about your tech. I was checking it out last month, and I have really high hopes. It's a very interesting space for me, but I would love to start, before we get into all the tech, to give people a sense of who you are and where you started, because I believe you started out working for some really big companies. You've done you came from product creation as opposed to coming from AI, and that's what I like to hear, because AI people are so bad at onboarding. So tell us a little bit about your journey and kind of what brought you to the world of AI.
Absolutely. So I've been in the online education industry for the past decade, and I started my journey joining Mindvalley, which is probably one of the biggest online education personal growth platform in the world. And I moved to Malaysia, about a decade ago, spent 5 years in Malaysia, and that's where I started, as you say, focusing a lot on the product, focusing a lot also on the marketing. I used to be the chief marketing officer there in Mindvalley. And a huge part of what I was doing was building funnels, building marketing, building social media marketing, building all different things that we did to scale the company. Like when I was chief marketing officer there, we scaled the company from 25 to $75 million a year. I think we had about 13 million followers on social media, and we had probably hundreds of thousands of students every single year on our platform. So that was definitely one of the most amazing experience I've ever done. And it was exciting to learn online education directly there, working with some of the biggest minds in the world. And then in 2020, I left Mindvalley to start my own agency, which is named Scale for Impact. And right now in the agency, we work with some of the biggest names in the industry. So we do marketing, advertising, we do funnels for people like Tony Robbins. We work with Jordan Peterson in the past. We work with Marissa Peer, Ben Greenfield, Mindvalley, Founder.com, and many, many, many more. So for the last 10 years, I've had the opportunity to be part of so many $1 million launches, to launch a lot of them, to create incredible things. And obviously when AI came along, my major point was, what can I do exactly with this AI to help my work? And frankly, for the first couple of months, I was just like, I don't think that this is good. I don't think that AI is going to solve or help anything. But when I started getting a bit deeper into that, into prompting, into working in a whole different way, I understood the power that AI has. And especially I remember one weekend, I think it was last January, I set myself out a little challenge, which was like, can I replicate one funnel that we just created with our top talent in my agency? Can I replicate all of these just with AI? And I spent the entire weekend prompting, figuring out different things, till when I figured out, actually can do something that's pretty much 60, 70% there. And from there, it started this challenge that it then started to work in a much deeper way, which is where we decided to then create our own software to automate a lot of the things that we are doing in the agency. And then this went to a whole different level, and that's what today is onlinecourses.ai.
Now, it's a very interesting journey. I've been testing a lot of software. A big part of what I do is I test 10 to 20 tools every week. I shoot tons of review videos because I'm constantly looking for tools that are actually helpful, because so many tools out there, they're just reskins of ChatGPT, or they're not really using an AI, or they're very limited, or they're not actually useful. And the
Mhm.
biggest challenge, which you mentioned, which is really good, is that most AIs have terrible onboarding. ChatGPT, terrible. Perplexity, terrible. Claude, terrible. They all just have a blank page, which is literally the worst onboarding I've ever seen, which is exactly why people just like you come in and you go, wow, this doesn't work at all, because there's no manual, there's no instructions, there's no explanation of what prompting means, there's no anything. And they all do it, right? They all are like in a race to say, let's make it as technical as possible. So my very first operating system was DOS in the 1980s, which was just a text prompt, right? And I
Yes.
feel like we've gone back to that.
Yes.
We've actually reverted all the way back to pre-Windows, right? Windows was a revelation because it was like, what if I could click on stuff with the mouse instead of having to remember CD for change directory and RD for reverse directory, all these things, and dot, dot, dot for go back one directory. So we had to learn all this little coding language. And so I've been realizing lately that there's a really steep learning curve with AIs.
Yeah.
So having been through that yourself, how do you kind of solve that for people that kind of come into your world? Because that's the first hurdle.
100%. So let's say this, that the number one idea that I had with online courses.ai was to create the one-stop shop for course creators. So if I'm a course creator, most likely I'm an expert in something. Maybe I'm an expert in therapy. Maybe I'm an expert in cooking. Maybe I'm an expert. Definitely, I'm not an expert in marketing, in course creation, in social media, in copywriting, in any of these, right? So we try to create an experience that would allow any expert to actually be able to create something without any major prompting. So the entire idea is pretty simple. And I'll tell you also a bit the story of how I created this. I actually took what exactly is our onboarding inside our agency, where we actually guide our clients from their idea to actually making things happen. And I sort of created the same thing with AI. So the entire idea is, in the beginning, we want obviously to get to know a lot more about the product, want to get to know about the author, want to get to know about their style. So the way in which they write, the way in which the type of customer that they target and everything. So the entire onboarding goes exactly in this way. It's a series of questions that for all the different output that you want to create will guide you exactly through that journey. And the incredible things that I believe that why what online courses.ai creates is superior from everything else is that the key is about figuring out very deeply what's the customer that you're talking to and who are you in terms of your own style. And once you're able to get these two things together and apply it in all the different things you're creating, from your social media to your course, to your funnel, your webinar, your challenge, or whatever you're creating, this is a real game changer. Because the uniqueness of the output that you generate is really incredible. It's really something that it's very difficult to get from anything else out there. And on top of that, AI is incredible. I'm sure you have seen so many platforms and you know the power of AI and how cool is that. Uh, but obviously, AI is very general. So if you go to AI and ask, if you go to ChatGPT and ask, write me an headline, if write something that's very poor, we all know it, right? Like if you're a copywriter, you know that that's not really useful. So what has been really important for us has been combining all those onboarding and inputs that we get from the user together with our own marketing SOPs, so that the final output that it gets is something that's very specific and it's very good, and is I would say 80% of what we will normally use, will normally create inside our own agency. And this to me is very interesting because, like, my final goal with this platform is literally to democratize access to online education. Like, so many incredible talents right now are not entering because I don't know how to market, I don't know how to build a funnel, I don't know how to build a course. And we want to make it in a way that actually everyone will be able to join this and to create something incredible thanks to our platform.
One of the things I've noticed, because I've been testing a lot of website builders and AI page builders lately, is that there's kind of three categories. The first category is they don't have AI, they're faking it. There's a couple that do that, and it's like, there's no point. They just make you choose from menus. You don't enter any actual text. So I could tell right away. And I was like, oh, they're just tricking people. That's a shame. The second category is they're super limited, as in they just have 3 templates. So a lot of these website builders, they have 3 templates and they have you fill in some questions, and then they're really just filling the text. And then you have 3 templates to choose from, but it's always the same 3 designs. So one of the biggest fears people have is like, oh, I don't want my website to look like everyone else's. Like, I know if I go to a restaurant with my wife and we see another woman in the same dress, it's going to be a thing, right? It's like the last thing she wants to see. And in the same way, there's this balance of people like, oh, I want a template that works, but I don't want to look exactly like everyone else. I don't want to look like, and there's that little bit of a fear. So how do you kind of handle that issue of creating a unique design, but also it still converts, which is the biggest challenge?
Yeah, I think that that's a very great point. So at the moment, obviously, what we do is that we focus on a major templates. We focus on a templates that we've been testing out through different clients, and that's kind of the SOP, the standard operating procedure that we know that convert and will generate something that's very high quality on that. At the same time, every person that sign up through our own platform, they also get a few different templates for a few different platforms. Now, what you will see in a lot of AI platform out there is that they try to create everything inside, right? They try to create their own page builder, they try to create everything, and then you can launch the course directly there. Now, in my experience, this is kind of very difficult for most of all the users because most of all the people that are already in online course creation, they might already have ClickFunnels, they might already have Go High Level, they might already have WordPress, they might already have their own thing. So I don't want to create something where I compete against ClickFunnels or Kajabi or whatever. I actually want to create something that every user from every platform could actually take and use. So what we're actually doing is that we are creating an entire template, an entire output based on the templates that convert. But at the same time, every single person that joined the platform have access to Go High Level if they want to use it. It's already for free inside our own platform. And then if they want to use any other platform, we have templates for each one of them. So use ClickFunnels, no problem. You can take these templates, apply the same outputs that you just created, go and create it in your own thing. So we focus a lot more on delivering something that's flexible because that's what we observe in the industry, how users actually work, rather than create something on our own and forcing people to move platform. Because we know that it's one of the most difficult things a course creator wants. Like the first thing that every course creator asks me is like, oh my God, do I have to migrate from ClickFunnels to here? Absolutely not. Like we want to make sure that you can use the tool that you already love, but just take them to the next level thanks to AI.
Yeah, that is definitely one of the questions on my list because I've been through some migrations and it's always a nightmare. Something always gets lost. Every time I'm migrating a shopping cart. So I've tested and had a really good experience with a competitor who's much smaller in scope and what they're offering, which is, and it's very simple. Here's what they do. You upload a video and they turn it into written lessons with quizzes, and really was impressed. But the maximum size of a course, and this is the limitation, they're so good for a mini course. It's like the best mini course tool I've ever seen. However, if I have the maximum video size for a big course, they call it big course, small course, is a 2-hour video. Now, a lot of my courses go way beyond that, right? I tend to shoot courses where there are multiple shorter videos. And the other hurdle I had was like, oh, the quiz is awesome, but it's just inside their platform. So you're kind of locked in, which is a trade-off because it works really well because quiz is obviously a complicated functionality, right? I totally get that. I was like, oh, I just wish I could embed the quiz in my tool. Then I wouldn't mind. And I know they're a little earlier on than what you're doing, but I would love to know what's your approach for the actual the course creation part, because that's what people really want to get to first, because that's where, and this is something I've dealt with a lot, is a lot of people think, oh, the hard part is writing the book. I'm like, no, it's everything after you write the book. But a lot of people think I have to make the course first and then do marketing, even though I know that's backwards, but that's how everyone thinks. So tell me the process with your system for actually creating a course. What do I provide? And then it goes into the course. Like for someone like me who I record a bunch of videos in advance, the hard part for me is actually then I have to create the description of the lesson. I have to create a worksheet for each lesson, creating the quizzes. Those are the 3 hurdles for me. I know that's unique to me, but tell me kind of what your approach is for the course creation part, because the marketing already sounds awesome.
Fantastic. So let's imagine that you already done the onboarding side of the platform, so you already inputted your own data, you already input how you write and everything, so that we have already the style. What happens is that you arrive there and you, in probably in 2-3 lines, just describe roughly what the course is about. Obviously, the deeper you go, the better the thing will be. But let's say you describe what the course is about. Let's imagine a 30-day social media marketing course that will teach people how to scale their own Instagram account and become a micro influencer. Once you have something like that, the first thing that we do is that we create learning objectives. Now, this is very important because if anyone has ever created a course, they know that first you need to figure out, okay, what are the things I wanted people to learn? And once you understand the learning objectives, then you can move to something else. So we create 8 learning objectives for each different course. And on each learning objective, you can always modify it, obviously. If what the platform provides based on the description isn't good enough for you, you can go in and modify. Then once this has been created, we move into creating different models to make sure that all the different learning objectives will actually be created. So you create the different models, and then for each of the models, you create the different lessons. So these are simply titles and description of what the model or what the lessons will actually be about. And you have the full power of looking through each models, through each lesson, and then say, this is good, this is not, I want to change this, I want to change that. Then once you are okay with that, you press, and in 2 minutes, we create the entire, basically, outline, strategy, and script for the course. So what basically happens is that for each of the model, you'll have a specific learning objective. You'll have a specific quiz in order to understand exactly, as you were mentioning, are students actually understanding what they're learning or not. Then a feature that I absolutely adore is that we are giving a community post for each of the single lessons. Like most of all the people, they might use Kajabi, they might use a Facebook group, they may use whatever type of community. They want to keep people engaged and to keep the conversation going on. So we create a specific community post to make sure that they get specific questions for each of the lessons. And at the same time, also we give what we call a practical exercise. Like one of the biggest problems with courses is that a lot of people want to make it a bit more practical. So we always suggest a practical exercise that you can give as a homework for your students so that then they can actually do and put in practice exactly what you're teaching. And then obviously for each module and for each of the lessons, you have a specific scripts of how exactly that lesson will be. And also here, like what I want to be very clear, I truly believe that this is like 80% there. You still need to go through the script, adjust it, improve it, add something else, because obviously that's your magic as an expert. That's your magic that you go in and decide and say, I want to change this, improve that, adjust that. But this cuts so much the entire process of scripting an entire lesson from beginning to end. And if anyone has done professionally a course, they know that this is a process that might take months to do. And right now you have a very amazing first draft that bring 80% there, through which then you can go tweak, adjust, and then do the rest. And that's exactly kind of what we want to do. Like there is also the opportunity that we were having of, okay, let's take these scripts and then let's integrate it with some video platform, and then let's actually create directly the video from some avatar. We don't want to do that. Like I don't want someone to create an automated course like that. I want to empower actual experts to then take this idea to the next level, thanks to a first script and a first draft that's been done there. That's a lot more where we're coming with.
Okay, so it sounds like the process, if I understand it right, is actually creating the plan for the course, creating the text, and then you go and make the videos after working with your software, which is the exact opposite direction of the other tool. So it's really cool. You're doing something completely different. But let's say I'm coming in and I'm going, oh, I want to update my courses. Can I take existing videos and bring them in, and then your tool can use those to create lessons, or it doesn't work that way?
At the moment, no. At the moment, we didn't provide input opportunity. It's something that we're working on in a few different directions, because this sometimes is useful. You mentioned the course is useful also for a sales page. Maybe you already have a link to a sales page that you want to input in the platform, and then ask, how should I change and improve my sales page, right? So at the moment, we didn't provide yet these functionalities, but something that we're working on for the next month, and it's in the pipeline. It's definitely something that a lot of users are actually asking exactly this.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to make something that pleases everyone. That's one of the big challenges. So I completely understand that once you start adding features for every single possible person, it goes down a pathway. So this makes a lot of sense to me for a lot of beginners because one of the biggest problems that I know beginners have is mission creep, where they start off going, I'm going to make a short course, and they always think longer is better. And I'm
Mm.
so aware of this, something I deal with as well. When I buy someone else's course and I see that it's 18 hours, I go, oh no.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
always want, as a customer, I always want shorter. And as a creator, I always want to make longer. And it's really hard to find that balance. So coming from a structure, especially for a beginning course creator, it makes sense to me. So it sounds like the target audience is people that have an expertise but have really no course creation experience or very limited. It's really one of their bigger weaknesses. I've worked with a lot of coaches who are so good at what they do, but they don't know how to replicate. Like they don't know how to scale. So they hit that wall, which I know is something very specific Mind Valley worked on. So I know you have that experience because that's a big hurdle for a lot of people. They go, oh, I know how to do it one-on-one,
Yeah,
but I don't know how to record that and deliver it to a bunch of people. And that's very common for people coming from the coaching space. So I see how this could help a lot of people to come in and who don't have experience creating a structure because it took me years to develop my core structure. So I think this is very interesting. Now, when people are looking at all of these different AI tools, one of the big worries a lot of people have is about staying up to date. You know, I'm a huge ChatGPT user, but they stealth release updates, which is the most annoying way to release an update. They do secret update releases every 1 to 2 weeks and don't tell anyone. I have to follow someone on Twitter who goes, oh, I found this new secret release.
yeah,
And here's the secret link to tell them to activate it on your account. I'm like, why would you do that? It's so stressful. So a lot of people, one of the more common worries, the first one is overwhelm. And it sounds like you have a process for dealing with that, which we've talked about. But the second worry is, what if I get a step behind? Like one of the things I'm dealing with right now, a lot of the tools that I loved using last year as part of my workflow don't have any AI functionality. So they've been replaced by newer tools. So I'm having to transition my entire workflow. Like
yeah,
what happens after we record this episode is nothing like what happened last year after I recorded podcast episodes. I don't
sure.
use any of the same tools, any of the same process, any of the same anything because it's all completely changed. So how do you kind of handle that constantly needing updates, functionalities change, APIs change? That's one of the things I worry about is like I have built some tools on top of the ChatGPT API, but when they up and downgrade the tool, when they change, if they change the updates and sometimes they make it stronger and sometimes they nerf it down and then they release a new edition, that can really mess up my outputs.
Yeah.
So I know you're building on top of other API tools and of course larger engines, LLMs. How do you deal with that challenge as someone who's kind of entered this world, which honestly, I think it's one of the toughest decisions to make this year. I always tell everyone, I tell every company, if someone approaches you and suggests custom AI software this year, don't do it. Because by the time you're finished, whatever you built at the beginning will no longer be relevant. So that's really, I think, very brave of you. Like I would be very nervous about what you're doing simply because there's updates coming out every single day and something works today, then stops working, then works again. How do you kind of deal with that as someone who's made this decision to go from marketing into software?
Absolutely. So here is the thing: is we've seen this a lot. We've seen part of our platform working very well, and then the week after receiving some customer telling us, "Oh, this isn't working as expected." We go in and it's not. So we need to rebuild a lot of the things behind. And as how we created the system right now, it is definitely a bit of a closed system. This is what, as I was saying before, a one-stop shop. So definitely a huge part of what we are doing is creating a community around the software in order to understand also as fast as possible if and when something has been changed and not work exactly as ideal, and then rework on the back and then adjust everything to make sure that this will work better. It is a continuous process. The reality is that we cannot expect that AI is will be stable, right? At the moment, obviously, it will be growing a lot, and it is a crazy industry that every single week, basically, there is a new release, a new thing that is changing. Obviously, like what we try to do and what's our aim is to make sure that our team is always on top of all these different details, problems, and everything, and then create solution every single time to make sure that we are updated and keep on creating some always new thing. um, what we do, I see that we do that is different from what a lot of other platforms do, is that we generate a lot of output for each input that the user creates. So let me just give you an example. If you want to generate a webinar funnel, uh, we actually generate three different email sequence of 7 emails each, with invite sequence, show up sequence, sales sequence, all created. We generate the entire landing page, sales page, live page, replay page. We generate all of them, and each one of them, like let's imagine to create a sales page, probably that's already 40 different API calls. Because what we did is that we simply took a very big problem, which is how do you write a cool headline, and we created a huge, massive prompts of things behind it to make sure that this will work in a very specific way. And we replicated this for literally each of the element of your course, your social media, your funnel, everything that you're gonna build. So every time, as an example, you create a webinar funnel, I think that there are over 300-400 API calls that we make on the back end to give you that final result, right? Um, and let's say this, obviously, the prompt and the API and the way in which we wrote is very specific. But then again, you're right. Sometimes it happens that no matter how specific you get, if there is a new update or a new thing, you need to go back, tweak, adjust it, and improve it. It is definitely a challenge that I'm seeing that we have, but that also a lot of other tools in the industry are having at the moment.
Yeah, because it's very challenging for people because everything's always changing. Like what's unique now, sometimes it comes a feature. Like a year ago, an AI that could create social media clips from a long form video like this was revolutionary, right? And then there's all these tools they came out with and go, oh, this is the one thing we do. They'll take it, we'll find the best clips, we'll tell you how viral they're going to be, we'll give them to you in the shapes you want. And that was really cool. But now, every video editing software has that as a feature. So it went from revolutionary to a specialist tool to then it becomes part of every tool. And one of the challenges is finding that balance, because a lot of people go, well, I would just love an AI that just write a sales letter for me, right? They just want that one problem, one solution. You've gone much bigger than that, right? So how do people who are kind of thinking about if they're the right fit for your tool decide if it's the right fit for them? Because maybe they already have a process for writing webinars, right? And they go, oh, I don't have that problem. But then because one of the issues I had, like with ClickFunnels, is I only used the page builder. I didn't use 99% of the features, right? And so that's why, at one point I looked, I have a maxed out ClickFunnels account, a maxed out Kartra account, a maxed out all these different page funnels. I was paying $1,000 a month for all these builders because a lot of people I work with are locked into one ecosystem. And now I work with someone, everything's Kajabi, so I have to learn how Kajabi works. And it's kind of a nightmare. And I kind of pulled back because I was like, I was paying for something with 99 features and I used 3. Yeah. So how does someone make that decision-making calculus for a tool like yours where they go, okay, this solves enough problems? Because one of the things that happens, and you've already kind of touched on this, is once people have an ecosystem, a way of doing things, they don't like to change things, right? I don't really like to change. Everyone says, Jonathan, why do you build WordPress websites? Well, I've been doing it since 2010. I don't want to learn, even if there's a new way that's 10% better, the learning cost, right? It's a limited value for me to change. Every time you move to a new platform, like every time I move to a new page builder, it's a new process, and it can do some things, you can't do other things. It takes a while to learn it. And it's always that hurdle. So for people that are kind of making that decision, they're going, oh, this seems interesting, but I'm not sure if it's right for me. How do you kind of approach that of saying, oh, well, we're so good at all of these things, but even just one or two of these kind of gives you that value?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, a lot of what we've been building in our own agency and what we've been doing for years has been creating funnels. So I would say that that one is the one that to me is that single thing that once you go in the market and try to pay someone for that, versus what you could actually do directly today by joining online courses.ai, is a huge time saver, and is the one that to me is the highest ROI that you can actually do by joining that. On top of that, right now we also have our own freemium journey, so that if you want to join, play a bit around, and see kind of the general outputs that it creates, you can already do it for free. Obviously, you have a limited amount of credit that you can use in the free plan. And that to me is the other side of always try out the different tools and try to see exactly what each tool gives. In my opinion, what we do is that it is very, very, very specific for the online education industry. Obviously, if you try to use it for e-commerce, if you try to use it for SaaS, for any other industry, it might not work as well. But unfortunately, I haven't seen a lot of AI tools for the online education industry that are actually giving very specific outputs. I've seen a lot of them that give very general outputs, but it's clear to me that a lot of the people that build those softwares didn't build a lot of funnels before, or didn't build a lot of courses before. The difference here is obviously that we come a lot from this industry, so we understand the problems, we understand the different things, and we build it to solve our own problems. Actually, funny story, I didn't want to build a SaaS. I didn't want to launch online courses.ai. Like, I literally built this because I wanted to use it in my own agency. And when I started to show it around to a few friends of mine, they connected me with a guy which is an investor, and the guy told me, dude, you created all this thing and you're not launching it? Are you damn crazy? Like, this is so cool. You need to take this and launch it to the world, because this is the opportunity to create something incredible. And I believe that that's kind of what we did. We tried to solve our own problem first, and then we figured out there was a product that would solve other people's problem as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting because so many people get it backwards. And this is how I started out. I started out course creating until I found out what copywriters make. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in the wrong end of this, right? I'm getting the wrong percentages because I've made products for a lot of big brands. And when I found out what the other parts of the business, like, oh my gosh, this is the worst part to be in. I should have started at the marketing and the copywriting because it's so much more valuable. A lot of people get caught up and it's the field of dreams. Have you ever seen that movie? It goes, oh, if you make it, they will come. They think if I make the perfect product, people will come find you. And that's a harsh lesson, right? Because it's like, there's a lot of bad products with great marketing that sell well because the marketing is so much more valuable. People never find out if your book's good or bad until they actually have already bought it.
Yeah.
So this is an important lesson. And one of the things that's interesting is, like, for me, writing the web, I'm good at writing a webinar. I can write a sales webinar. It's all the other stuff, writing the emails before it and after it. That stuff is actually so much more annoying for me because it's a little bit more meticulous. It's a little more methodical. And it's the same thing after. I don't find writing a book hard. I find writing the description to go on Amazon and the other bookstores. That's more annoying for me. All the other smaller pieces. And so it's very interesting that you've kept that as part of your process, because a lot of tools out there have this approach of they solve the main thing, but there's still the other accessories, right? Which is that exactly. I was working on a webinar today, a couple of hours ago, and then it was like, well, I have to write 7 emails to invite people, then I have to write the replay emails, then I have to write the attendee emails and the non-attendee emails. And then there's did they show for 25%? Did they click the link? All these different tags. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's like 50 emails to make the perfect funnel, but it's also kind of annoying, right? But there is a payoff, but it's those smaller parts. And copywriting is really the panacea for AIs, because most AIs are so bad at copy that it's like really a struggle, right? I can get some okay stuff, but I'm a high level user. So it's very hard for me to pass down to people how to do copywriting. And I know actually a few copywriters out there with big AI courses that are not good. And I'm like, I can't recommend it because it doesn't work. Your system is too hard.
Yeah.
Right? It's either it doesn't work or it's really, really hard. Like, I have a friend, he wrote this amazing AI that will write an email for you, but you have to answer 3 pages of inputs. And I was like, how long does it take you to write an email? He goes, about an hour. And I was like, well, it solves one problem for me, but not the other. It solves the thinking problem, but not the time problem. It's still, I can write an email in an hour as well. Like that's the challenge is the two things. It's very hard to solve both. Now, the reason I had you on, and people know this who follow the show, is I don't have a lot of founders on because I don't like the technical side of AI. I like the practical side. I really only care about usefulness. This is why I don't talk about video AI, because I've never seen one that didn't make me sick to my stomach. I get dizzy very easily. It's very shaky. And so I'm really very excited by kind of your practical approach. And that's why it took a couple of weeks to get us together, but I wanted to have you on the show. And I'm really excited you came. I know people are going to be very interested in this tool because I do not recommend a lot of AI tools. It's less than 20, and the list usually gets shorter, not longer. So for people that want to check out your software, where's the best place for them to take a look and kind of see? I know we have a special deal for people that are listening to this episode to kind of let them check out a little bit more as just a way of saying thank them for being a part of our audience. So where can people check everything out?
Absolutely. They can go to onlinecourses.ai/serve-no-master, and that will give the special link that we created for this episode and with a special discount for the community. Yeah.
Guys, that's very exciting. You can know that there's going to be a follow-up because I've been testing the platform a little bit, and when I'm ready to launch my full review, I'll also drop that on all my social channels because that's always important to me. But what I've seen so far, I've been very impressed by the methodical process for the output because, as you guys know, so many AIs just give you a really rough onboarding experience. Yeah, they can do anything, but only if you find the hidden instructions. I like tools that don't make you do that, that are user-friendly. It can actually help you grow your business. So as we're finding our path with AI, I think you're really going to like this. Again, that's at onlinecourses.ai/serve-no-master, which you guys know is my brand and my passion. I want to thank you guys for listening to another episode of the Artificial Intelligence Podcast. And thank you so much for being here today, Alessio.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Artificial Intelligence Podcast. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss another episode. We'll be back next Monday with more tips and tactics on how to leverage AI to escape that rat race. Head over to artificialintelligencepod.com now to see past episodes, leave a review, and check out all of our socials.